Hey y'all, in this video I wanted to cover a few of the, I guess, more southern type trees. This one is the little gem magnolia, and if you're in the south and you don't like magnolias, I really don't know what to say. I mean, they're an evergreen. I do understand that they get, pretty good size, so if you don't have room for them, I would understand, you not really being into them in that aspect. But I love them. They're so pretty. They're one of my favorite trees. The fact that, you have green structure from them year round, and this bloom, oh my goodness, the bloom on them is just amazing. It's big, and depending on what variety, I mean, the flower will vary depending on the variety. Some have much bigger, some have smaller blooms, but the smell is divine. I mean, it's just divine. That's the only way I know how to describe it. When you've got a magnolia that is in bloom and you're working out in the yard, if this one's small, I only planted it, I think, 3 years ago, and bless its heart, I had to move it because I planted it in an area where my husband Steven was like, you cannot leave that there, I'm not going to be able to drive the tractor around, blah blah. So I had to move it, and which set it back a little bit with its growing, but it's really started to take off this year, and it's got several places it's fixing to put out these glorious smelling flowers. I love them. The smell is just, you can't get past it. It's just amazing. The little gem, it will get 20 to 30 foot depending on which zone you're in. I think this one mainly is for zone 7 to 9. So I'm going to estimate this one's probably going to get around 25 foot for me. Some of the magnolias get way bigger than that. But this one's, and it could get closer to the 30 foot. I mean, it just depends. We do have some, here on the mountain, even though, we have the heat and humidity and all that, because we're in the deep south, we do sometimes have some pretty good cold spells in the wintertime. And so, that could set it back a little bit or stun it a little bit. If we have Arctic blasts like we've had the last 2 winters. Year before last was much worse. It lasted 2 weeks. Last year it only lasted about a week. And so, and it wasn't nearly as bad as the year before. But it's just, we have that some years. But anyways, this one, oh, I can smell it from back here. Oh my goodness. If you are in the south and you don't have a magnolia, or you've never really been around magnolias, I would suggest visiting somewhere where there's magnolias in bloom, and you just might change your mind about the magnolia. And this is a different type of magnolia. This one, I'm not exact, there's lots of different, it's the pink one, it's a pink magnolia. And I'm leaning toward more, it's the Jane magnolia, but I cannot be positive about that because this one was actually rooted from a cutting that my daddy took from his. And he passed away in 2015, and he had lots of plants that he had started propagating. And I want to say sometime about a year after he passed away, I brought this one over here and planted it. And so it's been growing here since somewhere between 2016 and 2017. And it has gotten pretty big. I'm going to say it's probably 12 or 13 foot tall, probably. It's just a rough estimate. And of course it blooms the pink flowers, and they do smell, but they don't smell like the white magnolia blooms do. It's more of a softer, less fragrant. I mean, when it's in full bloom, yes, you will smell it in different, if you're working anywhere near it. But the bloom is beautiful, and it blooms sporadically, kind of like the little gem does that I just showed you. It also blooms sporadically throughout the year. You get the one big flush of blooms, and then I guess maybe as it puts on new growth throughout the year, you'll get blooms off of that, just some here and there. And because this one was still blooming, on and off. It had blooms on it a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe. So, and my daddy, he could grow anything. It was just, he was an amazing person when it came to growing plants and propagating plants. And like I said, he had quite a few in his yard when he passed away that he had propagated and just hadn't done anything with yet. And some had actually been sitting there for 2 or 3 years and had actually grown through the container and into the ground and were rooted in the ground. So, to get those, you would have to like dig them up like you would if they were planted. But anyways, this is the pink one, and like I said, there's because there's so many different varieties of the pink magnolia. Some people call it the tulip tree, if you've ever heard that term. But because there's so many different varieties, I have no idea which one this one is for sure. And it does it loses its leaves in the wintertime. It's a deciduous magnolia, but it's still worth planting because the flowers are so beautiful. They're kind of elegant looking. They really do look like a tulip when they're all over the whole tree when it's in bloom. And speaking of my daddy and the way he could propagate, plants and shrubs and stuff, this is 3 roses Sharon that he had propagated, and they were, in buckets when he passed away, in 5-gallon buckets that he had rooted. And again, I have no idea what these varieties are. There's 2 of the double, I want to say they're a pinkish purple flower. It's the double flower. And the one in the middle is, the single. Looks more like a regular hibiscus, because the Rose of Sharon is also called hibiscus trees. But the hardy hibiscus trees. And so we just always call them Rose of Sharon here. But, yeah, he was just amazing at rooting these. And you can see in the top, I don't know if you can see that, there's still some blooms on it. It's it's blew a lot of them off because we've had some major winds the last couple of days. We were on the outer bands of Hurricane Francine that just came through, and for the past 2 days it's been so windy. There's tree limbs all over the yard that's got to be cleaned up. That's just, part of living in the woods, though. It blew stuff off the pool deck into the pool, chairs, pillows, I've got a mess to clean up when all this is over. We're still supposed to get a lot more rain off of it today, and hopefully after today it will start dwindling out and moving on. But yeah, these are the Rose of Sharon, and so far, I know some of the varieties drop seed and pop up everywhere. So far, and these have been here, I'm going to estimate maybe 4 years. So far I've not had anything pop up anywhere in the yard, so hopefully these are sterile varieties. Again, I don't know where my daddy bought them from, or what variety they, you know, exactly are, so I can't really say yet. We'll see as time goes by.